Hello. So I'm gonna be making a nice detailed guide on how to play Crossout because I've been seeing way too many people who have newer builds that have no idea what they're doing. So basically, what's been happening is that a lot of players have been either getting back into Crossout or going or like coming in from other games, coming into Crossout. They drop a little bit of coin, basically money, and then they just start rolling into games. But they're not having very synergistic builds. This basically means is that your builds don't really work well together, and there's a lot of problems with that comes around because you might be going like, man, I'm really struggling, but I gotta keep going to keep getting this like coin. There's so many different ways to get to make builds that actually work well together for even fairly cheap as well. There's plenty of builds that you could do. So first of all, cabins. Oh my god, am I seeing cabins that are bad? Okay, so there are cabins that are made for specific weapons, specific types of classes of weapons, or just all around all-purpose cabins, or just gimmicky cabins as well. There's those as well. Let's go crafting, technology tree, cabins. Okay, so when you're going into cabins, once you start getting out of the white and blue tier, and you start going into the special tier, you start running into cabins with very, I gotta put this gimmicky sort of classes. Let me turn down the audio. I hate the music in this game. There we go. Okay. So basically, why is this important? Well, with most cabins, is that they have some type of perk on them. If they have a perk, that means you can use it to your advantage. So let's start first going through the gimmicky cabins. The Tusk is a very good idea of a gimmicky cabin. It just basically is, oh, you can ram into people and deal extra damage. Cool. Um, it's a nice perk. It's just it doesn't really go very well. It's a light cabin, so you're basically gonna be either just trying to one shot people with just ramming into them, but at higher echelons of gameplay, this is not going to be working out if you start hitting, I would say, about 10,000 above power score. If you start going above that, it's a very hit or miss cabin. It already is hit or miss with its ability, not really being able to do a whole lot. Um, yes, the Cerberus. This is a grinding cabin. That means it has a nice little grinder right here that does extra damage. It's like a nice little auger. It looks like the drill from Space Engineers. If anyone plays that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so basically this is a melee cabin. It's just like the Tusk, but instead it will just basically sit on someone, grind them up. It's basically like a harvester or some other type of weapon. Is basically meant for lance builds. It's very good with lance builds, but it because it just does damage afterwards, so you're not completely useless, but it's still pretty bad. It has actually a very high speed, which is pretty nice, and with it having an okay mass limit, but still fairly low. Okay. Another gimmicky cabin is this. The Werewolf. This is a craftable cabin that everyone can make. It is very bad. Now, why are you saying it's bad? Because the perk is that when you die, it gives you a controllable fuse drone. A controllable fuse drone. If you don't like drones, you're not gonna like this because you're basically it's your last ditch effort to try to get any type of like damage in. Okay, let's see. Another gimmicky cabin is, yes, the Savior. This was a recent pack item. It was like the Terminator pack that they added to the game. It's very bad. It's basically it gives you better damage if you ram into somebody. Now, fuck. Tired. Sorry about that. So basically, Savior, after dealing collision damage, it'll just increase all damage of like weapons, but it doesn't stay for very long. So yeah, it has high cabin power, high mass limit. Well, sort of high mass limit. It's about the same as, no, it's less than humpback, but still, it's an okay, um, okay cabin. Um, and then there's also the Bastion. Now, this is one of the probably best gimmicky cabins because it just has so much resistance. Sorry about that. So it's a very very durable cabin. It has a pretty decent mass limit. It was in the last fusion event, which was the Crossout Day fusion event, where you can get extra mass and minus mass, extra mass limit and minus mass on the actual cabin itself. So it makes it really nice because it takes away a lot of that mass because the cabin does account for a good bit of its own mass. It has a decent durability. Its stats are really really good. But yeah, it's not really the best. Then when we go to legendary tiers, the new cabin, the Kronos, very gimmicky cab. It basically just feeds off of dying players or dying raids. It's a very good raid cabin. It's very good for raids. But other than that, most gameplay you won't really see it. It might have a place in Clan Wars, but at this moment in time, it's not that great. Alrighty. Yeah. Another gimmicky cab is the Master. It basically repairs, same as this, but it heats itself up and then repairs everything connected to it for restoring 10% of durability a second. Parts connected to the nodes after 2 seconds of being active, module can be disabled. So basically, can repair everything on your build up to 100% durability that is connected to the power nodes, but the cabin is heated, so you'll take excessive damage if they do hit your cabin. Now this is a medium cabin, so it's not very large either, so it makes it actually pretty good. It has a better way of playing now due to it having a lot more power nodes than what it did. But when it first came out, it was pretty ass because it only had power nodes on the sides, not even on the top, just on the sides. It was pretty bad. But now it's a lot better. Cool. I think these are power nodes, but these aren't like. No, they're not power nodes, so it's kind of a waste. Kind of makes sense though. Alrighty. The Beholder. This is a very good legendary cab. Basically cloaks itself. It's fairly busted if you know how to use it right, but it can be kind of gimmicky. The whole entire thing is that it just makes itself invisible, and if you have a second, a second cloak, which it basically makes it so where it has a delay to decloaking when taking damage. It's kind of nice if you make a build that revolves around you cloaking up. The Nova cabin, a really nice gimmicky cabin, which is it just deploys a shield in front of itself. Pretty good, very good. Actually, this is probably one of the better ones that we have. So basically, it just makes itself so it can't take damage from the front for a good while. Sorry. Kind of yawny today, I don't know why. Okay, now we're going into the all-purpose cabins. That means that they just basically buff everything if they meet a certain criteria met. So first of all, we have the cockpit. A very, very nice cabin, which is, it can give a was it max of 40% bonus damage as long as boosters are hit, as long as the speed is above 75 kilometers high, or 8 hour or higher, and the boosters are active. Now, boosters, you can just have a couple of purple ones, Not very much. Yeah, why was I yawning? I don't know why. I slept good. I don't know. But yeah, probably Mountain Dew. It's fun. Nice. But yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty fun. You can go pretty fast in it too. It's not that bad. 100 kilometers per hour. I believe it's one of the faster cabins in the game, other than the Chronos, which they made 105. They buffed every other light cabin, so it can't go above 105, which is funny. Cockpit pretty good. It buffs boosters, but and it also buffs other weapons when the boosters are active and it's in motion. So it's not bad, not bad. The next all-purpose cabin is the Torero. Torero is a good cabin. There's a lesser version, which is the Hot Rod. Both are actually like Hot Rod isn't terrible. It's just it doesn't give you as much power. Torero is pretty good. Not much of a different mass limit, but the speed is the same. The perk is just doubled. Just basically makes all your weapons more accurate, so that way you can hit enemies easier. Best used with machine guns. Another good weapon is the Deadman. It just basically increases your reloading value, your reloading percentage based on how many weapons are mounted on the vehicle. So the more weapons you have, the less of a perk you get, but it still does a decent job. The Catalina, probably one of the most used and best liked light cabins. It was in the last fusion event, which gave it 9,000 kilograms of mass limit, and I think it also made itself lighter too. But it's still a fairly decent cabin. It does pretty good. It's pretty easy to use. Basically, you start out with less damage, but eventually you can work your way up to, I believe, like a max of like 70%. So if you're using weapons that do buff their own damage, it makes it pretty broken to actually use them. This is a very well used cabin in Clan Wars for both levies and non-levy builds. That's the same thing with the cockpit, mostly used with Leviathans to give that extra bonus damage. The Genevieve, it's a pretty decent cabin. Its perk only happens when you drift, but it does increase your 20%. It does increase all damage by 20%. So light cabin is pretty fast. It only works with wheels, so you can't use hobbies. That's considered strafing. The Cami. Basically pretty decent. Just basically it makes it so where you can't get any debuffs on your vehicle, such as heat or even getting shocked from electric weapons that make you slower. The Aggressor, probably one of the least liked epic cabins. It was it was from a battle pass a long time ago. Now it just kind of sits in everybody's garage as a fused cabin. So basically, it just increases weapon damage by a total of like 21%, just from you moving forward. Like there are builds that do use this, but most people just kind of shy away from it because it's rather bad. It's a lunatic cabin. Yeah, you can craft them. Well, most people can. That have been playing for a long time, but if you don't have that, you're not really doing too much. Yes, the Howl. So basically, when you're near players, it just gives you bonus damage, and basically you just keep on getting damage as long as you're near someone. It's not that bad of a cabin. It's kind of a meh cabin, but it's a brawling cabin for sure. Some levies use it, but not a whole lot, just because its bonus isn't the best, and there's always something better out there. Alrighty, moving on to the Ghost. Basically a cabin that buffs damage. So where you're basically going to be dealing 28% extra damage for being just cloaked. Most people use a chameleon of some time of subtype, even the special or the epic, and so basically you're going to be just using that to just buff damage. But yeah. We have the Omnibox. A good cabin that's not that bad, that can either increase your cabin speed and power, or increase your weapon cooling and reloading. A lot of players get into this because it's a very cheap cabin. It's always been a fairly cheap cabin, and if you played a long time ago, you have a fuse version, but a lot of long time players don't ever use it because there's just something always a little bit better out there. The Echo. It's a good cabin for any type of reloading weapon, which I believe over half the guns in the game are reloading, are reload based. So basically, it just makes it so where if you're near an enemy, it'll start buffing the cabin. Once the cabin's fully charged, you can activate it, reloading all weapons by 50% for 7 seconds. Now, this was the best reloading perk in the game before the Hadron got added in, but it did make a lot of cannon builds more viable because they're considered brawling builds to begin with, and you could just basically get in someone's face and just sit there, just keep on charging and firing onto them. With high power, it's very, very good. Mass limit's okay, a little bit on the low end of heavy cabs, but there's always something that's gonna have heavier mass. Hadron. Let's go back over here. Hadron is a good cabin. It's well used by actually levies and most light builds in Clan Wars, basically making it so where everything is just overall better in a way. So it just increases all reloading weapons, while also it distributes it equally among all types. So a lot of people use a King Mine or the adapter, depending on if they want to just either rapid fire something out, or if you have something slow firing on yourself, such as a avalanche. Cool. Now let's see here. Oh yes, the icebox cabin. So a lot of the cabins have limited turning angles, so this actually buffs them by 15%. It's a decent heavy cabin. It's on a little bit more of the expensive. It's like mid tier with how most cabins sell. Most cabins either sell in the upper 3,000 range, the 20K range, or the 1,000 or the 1,000 coin and below range. This is a very decent cabin. It just basically helps buff most cannons and auto cannons as well. I believe some shotguns too. The Emmerich. Emmerich is a nice heavy cabin because it just makes it so where you are just more tankier. It keeps on buffing based on how much damage you are taking, and the different damage that of types you're taking as well. So basically, you can just become a super tanky build with pretty decent mass limit too. But yeah, it has the same as the Echo. It makes it so where you just became really tanky, and you can just keep laying out some damage. The Humpback, the probably best one in the game. The Humpback is very usable by most people. Just makes it so where you're very tanky a lot of the time. Basically, the more damage that you take, the more that you'll deal. So it's a give and take relationship. So they either want to focus you until you die, but you're going to be getting that huge amount of damage buff if you have a lot of health. And you can make some really tanky builds with the Humpback. With having one of the higher tiers at the purple category of mass limit, you can actually do some pretty neat things. Okay, let's go for this one, the Yokozuna. Just basically a perk that just makes yourself faster. It gives yourself extra power. Makes it so you can also buff other allies as well, so that way you can make them faster too. It'll just deliver a little perk above them that'll just keep on giving them a little speed boost. The Cohort. The Cohort is a pretty decent cabin. It has the highest mass limit in the game other than the Mechanist, but it does make it so where you gain 30% damage resistance for 10 seconds. It has a little cooldown, which you can keep on throwing drones at your teammates. This was originally a Clan Wars based build. It's pretty decent, not too bad, and fairly effective. The Mechanist. It is a cabin, which basically makes it so where you just increase the durability of your parts on your vehicle, such as the weapons. Weapons are very good. This works really well with high durability weapons. Basically, the weapons have to be mounted anywhere on the cabin, and then you're pretty much golden. It is a fairly large cabin. It is also fairly heavy too, but it is one of the tankier cabins, and you can make some really tanky weapons. Although it only makes your weapons better and not your entire build. Let's go over here. I don't think I talked about the Griffin. Griffin's actually probably one of the first legendary cabins, making it so where it is very, very effective. So what does this mean? So basically, it makes itself so where you are impervious to being decloaked by the Oculus of the Verifier, and it also makes it so where your teammates are as well. So yeah, it makes it so where you become harder to detect, as well as your team too. It's not too bad. The player and 3 close allies in a 25-meter range are invisible and become immune. Yeah, so basically you just have to stick near the Griffin cabin, or the person who is using the Griffin cabin, but it's also bad because it clumps everybody up in one area. Okay, let's go for the weapon specific type. Okay, the Dusk. I've been seeing a lot of people who are using this one improperly. It is, yes, a light cabin, but B, it is also a cabin meant for only homing rocket launchers. Basically making it so where they are more likely to hit targets, as well as they fly faster and have a shorter lifespan. So why not? So while they make them do more damage, you also make it so where they're less effective at going after people. But if you're already doing that, you already pretty much know that this is for a reason, and you don't really care. Alrighty, the Blight. It's a fire-based weapon, so anything that uses fire or something fire-based, it makes it very, very usable, giving it a higher range for flamethrowers, extra damage by most things at 40%, and also makes it so where everything just is a lot larger and looks cooler. It's green, makes them green towards porcupines, like a tealish. It looks really cool. It's a very all-around well-balanced light cabin, and it's fairly well used still within Clan Wars, mainly for fire dogs. Let's see, what is a good weapon? Oh yes, the Harpy. Basically meant for any ammo reloading or even drones. It basically makes it so where you have a larger blast radius, and also they can have more ammo. It doesn't make anything lighter, doesn't make anything better. Just typically just gives you either extra munitions or larger blasts, or larger blast radius. It's still fairly well used with most builds, and typically gets the job done the best. The Favorite. It is a cabin which basically stops all heating on your weapons. It's very good for actually dealing high damage with most machine gun builds. A lot of people still use this cabin, although it is kind of faded into obscurity while staying at a rather low amount, so you can still use it. It's still very, very, very usable, just not very effective anymore. The Call, a drone-based cabin. It's probably one of the better drone-based cabins. It allows you to basically just become really, really tanky. It's not bad. It's pretty good. It also is amazing for doing that. It gives you better acceleration and better control of your wheels when you have more and more drones activated. Up to 3 drones at a time. The Moon. It's an amazing cabin for drone players. It makes it so you can actually now tell them what to target. The only thing is that it doesn't help is autonomous drones, but there's only a few of them that actually are autonomous, and makes it so where they're less. less effective. Autonomous is very rare, as if it isn't something that follows you around. It's something that kind of does its own thing, and you can just drop it, and it just kind of works. So yeah, the Steppy Spider Cabin. It basically makes it so where any type of non homing rockets are now they have faster speed but reduced damage, so they're more accurate and they can hit targets faster. We have the Quantum. Quantum is a energy based cabin. Basically, if you don't take damage for 4 seconds, you get 20% extra damage to your weapons. Pretty good, very pretty effective. We have the Photon, which is it just deals extra damage with energy weapons as long as the enemy is heated. It does an additional 30% as long as they are heated parts. It doesn't matter if they are fully heated or not, it's just an extra 30 damage. So throw an Aurora on a build with 2 plasma emitters or like a laser drill or something like that, and you will do extra damage. Yes, the Huggin. The Huggin cabin is a cabin which was with the last event, basically making it so where, with the last battle pass, basically making it so where you will have extra reloading times. It's best with shotguns. It's okay with machine guns, but it's best with shotguns. Doing that. Yeah. But yeah, typically it does fairly good. Okay, now let's go over into weapons. Now, so there's a couple classes of weapons that you'll never mix. So basically, the first 5 rows are all machine guns. That means that they have no real spin up time, no real cheap gimmick to them, other than they either are limited turn angle or they are fully rotational, but they just instantly fire once you tap, and you can just keep firing at people. And there are the gimmicky machine guns. So basically, these gimmicky machine guns have either, which are also miniguns, or a auto-locking machine gun. So with the miniguns, they have a charge-up time, but they typically have perks that are related to this, either making it so where they do more damage the longer that they're firing, or they just, in turn, do something special as long as they're hitting targets. With the automatic machine gun, the literal perk is it just locks onto a target and it won't stop firing at the target unless it doesn't have to. Okay, shotguns. So there are 3 rows of normal based shotguns. So there's these last 2 and the second row. All these are normal based shotguns. They just go in front of you. They have a limited angle or they don't. But these are all stables of Crossout. The slug, well, these aren't really slug, but they're like one shot shotguns. They're based on you're just dealing damage to people. These are fairly effective. It's not very bad. They deal more and more damage the more you keep hitting your target, basically, or more damage, or they have faster reloading times based on you moving. And then these 2 are gimmicky shotguns. The parser, you have to charge it, and you charge it, it tightens up the pellets, but it also has a charge up time, which kind of sucks. Also, as well as a reloading time. The Arthagon is a shotgun which fires out basically a cannon-like projectile, and then it kind of shatters. It's not really that great. There's a lot better things that they could be doing, but with the recent passive changes, I think it's more detrimental to hit them like at closer ranges, because it'll just kind of go through their build and then it'll kind of explode in the middle. It's kind of cool. It's not too bad. It's kind of meh. Could be better. Autocannons. Autocannons are all pretty much the same, with specific ones having specific types. These are more for just accuracy. These are more for just aggressive firing. And then these, which is the Tempest and the Whirl, are just more like turrets. So if you're really looking at it, you should never really mix machine guns, shotguns, and autocannons together, as well as machine guns, shotguns, and autocannons should never mix with cannons or any type of reload-based weapon unless they have a specific reload or a type of reload ability. So yeah. Cannons, they all basically work the same. They all have a projectile. They're either kind of gimmicky or they're just we just deal extra damage. There's two main rows here, and these are kind of just like side ones that you can kind of get. Elephant, extra durability and resistance. Medium, it's just basically a like autocannon, but it fires like a cannon. It's kind of weird. And then we have the avalanche, which is just a mortar. It just does a lot of damage. So yeah. Rocket launchers. There's a few gimmicky ones, such as the Heather. It's an artillery. There's the staples, which are all the lock-ons. There's the actual control one. There's a support one, which is trombone, and there's just the normal. You just fire and it'll just keep on hitting. The wasp, parallel, the locust, the cricket, the snowfall, the waltz, and the new helicon are all you just basically shoot at the enemy wherever you're aiming. The rocket will pretty much go. The waltz is a little bit different, where its rockets will basically kind of like spin, while also it has impulse, so you can really knock around some like builds. It's fairly good. It's fairly effective. It's actually one of the better rocket launchers in the game, besides the new helicon. New helicon is broken, busted, and is slowly losing its price value because people are seeing that its durability isn't really the best, but it's not that bad. It does a lot. Grenade launchers. So there's gimmicky ones, and there's just straightforward ones. So the straightforward ones are the Thresher, Rusher, and the Impulse, all pretty good. And then the gimmicky one is the Yang Wang. This would be considered a relic-based weapon, but because of its durability and it not being able to do a whole lot, because it's kind of limited, it's kind of cool. Though because its damage increases for the amount of hardware you spend on your build, so very good with Leviathans. Few builds use this, but they're not that effective. Energy weapons. There's really should be like, I would say 6 tiers. So there's the plasma weapons, the laser weapons, the shotgun, and then machine gun, as well as the random energy tier that I would say some fall into. The plasma weapons would be your casual Synthesis, Prometheus, and your Helios. You have the Quasar and the Pulsar, as well as the Yokai, which all act like cannons. The Yokai is special because you're supposed to miss and just hit near the target to do more damage. We have the laser drills, which are the trigger and the destructor, which just shoot and deal a lot of damage, as well as there's the blockchain, which is just a cutter. It kind of works same way, but it just shoots all at once. We have the miniguns, which is the Aurora and the Athena. The Aurora, it's just a laser minigun, heats up stuff. The Athena, which is a laser minigun which fires in bursts and has a reload after you fire 4 of its bursts. If its entire burst hits, it just kind of blows up on the enemy. Yeah, the weird gimmicky weapons. The sparks basically slow down stuff as you're hitting them. The spark and the flash do basically the same thing. Flash just does it more effectively because it's relic. But then we also have the assembler, which just keeps hitting enemies, and it's just overall just kind of bad. Its perk is bad, but there's ways people use it. Crossbows. Some are good, some are busted, some are trash now. Good ones, which are probably the Phoenix and the Toadfish. Phoenix, it just lobs a projectile, which is just a delayed explosion, and then we also have the Toadfish, which just kind of slaps people around, doing some pretty cool stuff. The spike is a lesser version of toadfish, but toadfish is pretty broken because it can fire 2 shells, well, 2 volleys at once, and it's pretty decent, not too bad. It's fairly weak though, but its main point is just to kind of bully hovers. The Varoon used to be pretty good, but it got nerfed to the ground and is now pretty trash. It's almost terrible now, and most people don't use it anymore, other than if they have to. Melee weapons, with the explosive one-time use melee weapons, which is the boomstick and the Lancelot. Both are considered trash to me, but people do like them. With the new mechanics, they don't blow up on corpses, but they still blow up on living vehicles. Basically seen as ineffective against any type of spider builds, and with hovers, you basically have to have them up in the air, which makes them more likely to get shot off and also makes them more vulnerable. Not really the best, but there's something always better out there. Just the casual, you just sit up against someone and grind. It's not too bad. These are pretty good. You just have to just sit up against them, deal a lot of damage. And we also have the Tempura, which basically shoots out a fiery burst every once in a while when you hit your button, but it also does a blast damage as well as it does just periodic flame damage, so it's not too bad. Now we have flame weapons or flamethrowers right here. They just kind of just hit stuff and it just does damage. And then we also have the incinerator and the mandrake, which are both basically, I would say, area denial weapons. Incinerator just kind of lobs a gas canister, explodes on the ground, catches on fire, makes an entire area just do a lot of damage. And then we also have the mandrake, which shoots a volley of five incinerator projectiles in the air, and once they hit the ground, they explode and they make an entire area like just kind of fiery. It's kind of cool, also kind of bad too, not too bad. Mine layers. There's the gimmicky ones, and then there's the you just slap them down, and there's also some that shoot. So there's the normal mine layers, which are the king and the capcan. Capcan fires out a mine which can hook onto players and basically stops them from leaving the area, which is very annoying. The king mine is different. It actually lobs a mine. It's like a bouncing Betty, basically, if you haven't played Call of Duty. Just kind of jumps in the air and then it just hits them for a decent explosion damage. The fortune, you're basically just shooting these like exploding tires at people. Kind of cool. Jobaku shoots a mine which will latch onto people like the capcan, and it will shock them. It does slow them down, but it doesn't really do it very effectively and doesn't do a whole lot of damage. The porcupine, the best mine in the game, just lobs a oil canister at people, and if it gets hit or if it gets shot, it'll explode. It's kind of cool, not too bad. The Ripper, these are very good for deframing levies. See it a lot, levy clan wars. Not a whole lot normal, but basically they do a lot of ramming damage. They're also pretty good for just kind of ripping through builds too, because they just have a lot of pass through, so those keep on going. Decent for actually taking off parts. Drones, all you need to know is that there's either drones that will follow you, that you will deploy, and they'll either follow you or just kind of stay there, or you will launch them. These are the launching ones, these are the following ones, and then the sidekick and the grenader are all ones that will follow you, as well as the fuse will also follow. It'll follow a turret, and then these are all just ones that will stay. The barrier deploys a shield. RTR Anaconda, and those are all just turret-based builds that will either launch a missile or shoot machine guns. They're okay. And then uncategorized weapons. We have the grenade launcher, a revolver. There's the Corvo, the nail gun, the rail gun, the like cheaper railgun, the normal railgun, the kaiju which just got nerfed, the the rail rifle will shoot like a burst of stuff. This is the brand new one. It's pretty good, not too bad. It does decent. It just makes it just gets its perk off of dead bodies, which is kind of good in raids. It's okay in Clan Wars. It's not really effective. Yeah, it's not really that effective in Clan Wars, but it still makes a pretty big difference when you get hit with 260 damage all at once with pass through as well. We also have the Skinner, which is just a harpoon, and the enlightenment, which will hit an enemy and will make it so where you can shut down weapons cooldown is reduced by 30%. I guess this makes it so where it shoots better. But it's a rocket which basically hits an enemy and it makes it so where they are always visible to your weapons. Hardware is basically either special modules that help buff your vehicle, stealth, recharge booster, of course. That is basically fix your like reloading time. Radars, of course. Scopes, basically giving you a longer vision. Generators gives you more power. It goes up by 1 energy per tier. We also have the engines, which just overall increase the mass limit, or the what is it? It's either the mass limit or the tonnage of your build. They also have other perks which basically make them weird, which that way they can work with other things. Boosters, increase the booster speed. Radiators and coolers. Radiators basically make your weapons reload faster, and coolers make it so where you can cool down your vehicle as well. Ammunition, basically, these are for cannons or cannons, missiles, or anything that uses ammo. These are for drones, the Genesises. Wheels, if I could go on that, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's different types of wheels, light, medium, and heavy. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's frontal wheels, which are kind of gimmicky. Rolling based wheels, which are the Omnis, kind of gimmicky. Tracks, pretty good, but they're not really meta anymore. They never really were, never really will be. They're only good right now for using for armor. Hovers, still pretty good. Also kind of stupid still. Now with the new pass-through changes, basically makes it so they can't be used anymore. Mechanical legs are really good, and augers are like tracks, but they just can allow you to strafe. So yeah. So typically, these are all types of weapons and cabins. You should try to mix and match like what works well together. But if you have machine guns, shotguns, autocannons, they typically do not work well with anything that isn't them. Autocannons can work kind of well with machine guns, but you just have to be really careful about that and be worried about the ones that they're using. But shotguns typically do not work well with machine guns unless you are doing some type of weird hybrid build that gives you range and also gives you close-up distance. But usually shotguns are used for close range. Machine guns are made for close to mid-range. Autocannons are made for mid to far range. Cannons are kind of just cannons. They can be used at almost any ranges, but work optimally at mid to far. Rocket launchers work really good at mid to far, and grenade launchers typically tend to work close to mid, close to mid ranges. Energy weapons some work better at close. Most of them are basically close to mid. Any farther, you're starting to lose their effectiveness. They have a lot of damage drop off the farther they shoot. Crossbows, mid to far. Melee weapons, basically hitting people. Flame weapons, either super close or like mid to far. Mine layers, you're just kind of hoping they run into them. Drones, close to mid. Emphasis more on close. And then categorized weapons, uncategorized weapons usually are from mid to far. Besides the Skinner. Skinner's the only one that's close ranged. So yeah, try to mix and match how they work well with each other. look at the perks of your cabins, make sure that they're all working good together. Don't be mixing a cabin perk that doesn't really work well with the other perks. You should typically buy a cabin. It should be one of the core craftable cabins, unless you're trying to go for a specific build. Otherwise, go for a pack-based cabin or a event-based cabin. Either one works, but typically try to stick to the craftable ones from the main game. If it's probably not best for you to craft anything, but there are a few things that are worth crafting, mainly if it's an event-based or if you're doing something that you see that can generate profit. You can typically guess what the profit margins are by doing the math of what everything will cost you to obtain, and then just multiplying it by 10%, subtracting that from the current market value, the market value you're going to try to sell it at, and see how much profit you can make. Typically, most things make a decent profit if you know how to do it right, but other things are just going to screw you over. But yeah, hope everyone has a great day. I'm going to keep crafting more and more engines, so yeah, going to have fun doing that. See you guys. Have a good day. Bye.